All right, good afternoon. This is Coach Big Pete of DeepDishFootball.com. It is time now to do the player spotlight that I've done for uh, the past 2 weeks. It's going to do two full rosters, go for the roster, talk about some of the players, yada yada yada, the whole thing, the whole shebang. Be sure you go to DeepDishFootball.com for everything on Stagg and Homewood Flossmoor before the game. Deep Dish Football Game of the Week is voted by you, the people. Also, be remembered at 8 p.m. today and tomorrow is Deep Dish Football Live. So, in that saying, let's begin. I'll start with the Stag roster, and then after that, go to the Homewood Flossmoor roster. Let's start with the Stag roster. And start with I talked about the Stag defense line. I talked about Kyle Netby. Let's talk about some of the playmakers at running back that they have, especially at the athletic position, because they also play on the defense too. Greg Horde, Mike Jennings, two of the most shocking players that I've seen on the Stag roster. Completely impressed with Greg Horde. Also impressed, of course, with Mike Jennings because I knew about Mike Jennings a little bit, but Craig Horde is completely impressive. Uh, Hell of a running back, Division One potential, but a great running back that will do damage against the Homewood Flossmoor defense. But Mike Jennings also more of an all-purpose back, but I really like what Mike Jennings does too. Both make for a tremendous tandem at running back. I think one of them also plays defensive back or linebacker. If I'm mistaken, they also do a good job there too. But both of them, hell of a tandem back for that backfield with Kyle Netty added the addition too. Also, Stagg's offensive line is completely transformed from last season to this season. They are doing a hell of a job. Let's go down a little bit more. Mike Warfield is the little wide receiver to keep a nice little close eye out for, especially at Stag wide receiver. Middle linebacker Danny Green. Also, Reed Modest is another running back to look out for too, which is funny because they have three great running backs. I think he last it was two weeks ago or 1 week ago he scored a touchdown. He looked great. Looking Tyler Winkleman, I talked about a defensive end. He looked great. There's an offensive lineman I'm looking out for. I think it's no, can't find your name. I'm their offensive line, Stag's offensive line looked very very good. Coach, I think is doing a hell of a job with Stag's offensive line, um, and the defensive line too. But what impressed me the most about Stags, uh, their total sum of players is their athletes. Much you can see the potential has risen in them. The talent level, their ability to play has risen from last season. Stag looks unbelievable, especially at the athletic position. I said that those running backs that they have are unbelievable. Completely impressed with the Stags running backs. All right, and let's go to Homer Flossmoor. Mario Wright, one of the best middle linebackers in the state of Illinois. Marcel Reese, uh, unbelievable cornerback. But him, Ratliff, uh, I think Leon Tana is not, if I'm not mistaken, is a defensive back. If I'm not mistaken, if I am, I do apologize. They have one of the best secondaries in the state of Illinois. Um, one of the best linebacker cores in the state of Illinois. Uh, Great quarterback. Uh, Justin Whiteside's another linebacker to look out for. Um, they have a good group of wide receivers that's just unbelievable. Jeffrey Griffin, I saw he is a hell of a pass rusher. He's also their center. Just a little tank, as you can almost say. We looking for another person. Jack Schmitz is a young tight end to look out for. Could be one of the best tight ends in the state of Illinois to keep a close eye out for, out of Homewood Flossmoor. Brother of the other Schmitz, if I'm not mistaken. If I am, I do apologize. There's one more person I wanted to talk about. Uh, their offensive line is fairly young, new to the position. They lost three stud offensive linemen from last season, but they look good. They're doing a good job. I think the whole thing with Homewood Flossmoor is they've been to the spot. Can they get over that last hump to get into the state title and win that state title game. Have said it. Um, I like Lincoln Way East, but I really like Homewood Flossmoor this season. I like what they produce, the players that they have. I do think they have a group of underrated wide receivers at Homewood Flossmoor. It's going to be very interesting to see. Jeremy Ratliff Jr., their cornerback, is a great cornerback that's good. Leon Tana is a top recruit in the state of Illinois for next year. Marcel Elias is a very underrated cornerback, another top rated, a top cornerback in the state of Illinois. You really can't pass against that Homewood Flossmoor team because they are just stacked. The only weakness I see is their defensive line. A little bit of their defensive line. That's the only weakness I can see. But altogether, Homewood Flossmoor is unbelievable at the secondary position. When you have Justin Hall playing a little bit of safety, and he plays running back, they have a great group of running backs at the Homewood Flossmoor thing too. It's just unbelievable the level of talent that they have. They have they have one more player that I wanted to talk about. I can't find him. Um, they've 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 got a really good little nose guard that I like out of Homewood Flossmoor. He's unbelievable because he does gap control a lot better than most nose guards know how to, and he basically puts his center into the gap. It makes his center move into the gap and makes the running back just basically try to find another spot. And I really do like their nose guard. I can't find your name, sir. I do apologize. Isaiah Lampkins is another guard to keep a close eye out for too. But so far, the Stagg, I talked about the Stagg defensive line. I talked about the quarterback. I talked about Horde running back, Jennings running back, two good running backs, two good athletes. Uh, Great. They have a nice little target wide receiver for Kyle Nepti at quarterback. Justin Hall has got a great offensive line coach that I think these offensive linemen, maybe 2 or 3 weeks from now, are going to get everything 100%, and they're just going to be a scary offensive line. But losing my train of thought. Homewood Flossmoor, great secondary. Stagg, great core of running backs, unbelievable core of running backs. Uh, Great defensive line, a very underrated defensive line. Small defensive line, but does the small things for the defense to make that defense good, to fill the gaps, gap assignment, and everything else. When you look at Homewood Flossmoor and their safeties and their line and their things, they do a great job with their assignments, great jobs at coverages, and great jobs boxing out the wide receivers into the zones. And that's a key for Homewood Flossmoor's defense going on to this season. So it's going to be an interesting year, especially for Homewood Flossmoor. But those are the players that I talked about that you should keep a close eye out for the Deep Dish football game of the week this Friday, is voted by you, the people. Stagg versus Homewood Flossmoor Friday night. It's going to be a fun time. Also, forgot Jordan Watson, linebacker, little hard-nosed linebacker out of Stagg too. Keep a close eye out for him too. It's going to be an interesting game, especially with Stagg. They're 2-0. They're going against Homewood Flossmoor, a beast team. Can Stagg pull the upset? Because I hate to say it, Homewood Flossmoor is going to be heavily favored going into this game. It's going to be a very interesting game. Stagg's got to have the right mind to get this upset going. Homewood Flossmoor, they just literally want to knock the teeth in after 2 minutes, get the first 2 touchdowns, and shut them up. That's what they're thinking about. That's all they're thinking about. It's going to be an interesting game between Stagg and Homewood Flossmoor. Is Homewood Flossmoor going to overlook Stagg for a Bolingbrook game next week? It's going to be an interesting game. So that is me, Coach Big Pete of Deep Dish Football. Remember, Deep Dish Football Live is at 8 p.m. tonight and tomorrow night, 8 p.m. live, Facebook Live. Talk all IHSA football. Also going to do some more talk about Deep Dish Football Game of the Week. You can ask some questions. I'll answer them. But it should be a fun game. See you Friday night. That's it. And if you have any questions, please email me, CoachBigPete, fp@gmail.com.